The joke is that Marcos is gluten intolerant, so he can't have donuts. And he's watching Wizard.
Damn it. Well, we finally reached one of the 2 seasons I've been dreading to get through in this video series. Oh, not because of the many opinions on Kamen Rider Wizard, at least not yet, but because 4 episodic seasons in a row is gonna eventually have me repeat my thoughts over and over, so it's gonna be more difficult to talk about Wizard as a whole, at least in the way I make these videos. Instead, here's something I don't bring up that often: Kamen Rider toys. Yeah, you know, the merchandise that the franchise basically revolved around ever since 1971. They've always done well in terms of sales, I mean duh, mostly in the roleplay section, though I'm specifically bringing up the Heisei Phase 2 toys. Even though some group of people don't like how toyetic the show became, it stuck to the toys for a reason. Let's look at Den-O, a fan favorite for its characters and story. Being a lighthearted drama with very heartfelt moments, the toys weren't bad either. The Den-O belt was sleek and very cool looking, with a weapon that has different forms. Plus the season's gimmick was cards, but you didn't need to worry about collecting them because all the ones you'll want just came with the belt. Its toy sales came out to be about 13 billion yen, which is usually double of what Super Sentai makes and even triple of what Ultraman earns, at least during that time. Now let's compare to the beginning of Heisei Phase 2 with Kamen Rider Double. This is where the toy philosophy changed a bit, now adding more gimmicks to play with and even more roleplay toys. No way it could compare to the original drama series of Heisei Phase 1. How dare there be more toys? More toys must mean it's bad, right? Heisei Phase 1 is the best! 20 billion yen. And growing with seasons up to Wizard. There's always been some inspiration coming from either the Showa era or what worked from the immediate previous season, so Wizard was to continue a big idea from its predecessor. Since Kamen Rider Fourze was uplifting, showing a happier side for kids when they needed it, Kamen Rider Wizard was about quote-unquote overcoming despair, and his catchphrase embodies this feeling. One scriptwriter, Tsuyoshi Kida, said one of the main themes of Wizard was to accept the present and move forward. Magic does give a feeling of wonder, and I know I definitely loved seeing it as a kid. That was one of the many themes when it came to creating this season, going along with the machine versus magic idea exchanged between Fourze and Wizard. It would be super easy to say that this is basically Kamen Rider Harry Potter, but that's actually what the producer wanted to avoid entirely. Instead, having a quote-unquote wizard living in the city vibe that was inspired by Percy Jackson. I know that sounds incredibly weird, but here's the source. I've personally always really liked magical themes outside of medieval and high fantasy, and Kamen Rider mainly being about science, or at least focusing on that from the start, has been making new and interesting twists on machinery. I remember getting excited for this new show, especially after watching Fourze weekly with one of my friends. Normally I'd watch a trailer or get hyped by a cameo from a summer movie, but they either haven't come out at the time with English subs, or I just wasn't able to watch them. Although I didn't feel the need to this time, because just the suit alone grabbed me. What's playing on screen right now are the first 2 promos, and even this looks very promising. Gates, Despair, Phantoms, Final Hope. Just look at that action. Oh, that is wallpaper worthy. Man, I can't get enough of those suits already. All of this was building up to something great. The intro alone was perfect. Oh, not that intro. This one. Showtime. And I'm not just talking about the music. Everything about Kamen Rider Wizard's cold open is perfection. These first 5 minutes set up the world, our characters, and the fantastic action, all set to some of the best music in the franchise. This is Kamen Rider Wizard. Haruto Soma is a wizard that fights phantoms and ghouls with the help of this girl, Koyomi, and a ringmaker, Wajima. The police have been after these phantoms, so they have a division called Section 0. One detective in this sector, Rinko Daimon, was saved by Haruto earlier and was told about how phantoms are born out of gates. Two of the phantom generals are Phoenix and Medusa, who sent out phantoms to create despair and open the gates that come from people. One of these gates is Rinko, so Haruto goes out to be her last hope. Unfortunately, Rinko is falling deeper into despair, so Haruto has to enter her spiritual landscape, what they call an underworld. One amazing rider kick later, and Rinko wakes up wearing a magic ring. Episode 1 is not only one of my favorite rider openings, but also one of my favorite episodes in the franchise. The first 5 minutes are beyond amazing. Then it just gets more fun, filled with mysteries that make me want to keep watching, not to mention how phenomenal the pacing is. I'm sure there's good things ahead. So episode 2 introduces us to Shunpei. Yeah, okay, I don't mind the character. In fact, I actually like this episode. It's a nice story of this young man wanting others to believe in magic like he does, but that magic being more of hope, because Shunpei wants to make others happy like magic made him happy. What I do mind is that Shunpei continues to hang out around after this episode, almost like that one stranger at a con that thinks they're part of your friend group so they overstay their welcome. Like, there's nothing inherently wrong with Shunpei, it's just kinda awkward when he pops in for a joke, then gets relegated to background decoration. He does do some important things, like giving Haruto rings a couple of times, but that could have been done by anyone. Even Haruto's familiars that I'm not gonna bring up again, most likely. Haruto later says that Shunpei is his apprentice, but that doesn't really add anything to the day-to-day stories. I hope it doesn't sound like I'm starting to bash Wizard, cause again, I don't mind Shunpei the character, I only wish there was more, I guess. All of that probably sounded like a side rant to get away from the story, but everything I said during that last paragraph is more or less what I'm gonna say here, because that begins the 2-episode arc structure with the Civilian of the Week formula. We have our core cast for now: Haruto, Rinko, Shunpei, Koyomi, and I guess Wajima. Plus, Wizard being an episodic show means that it's more day-to-day standalone stories rather than too much overarching plot, and that includes backstory because that's told in episode 2. Shunpei wants to be a magician, or a wizard, just like Haruto, but Haruto says that the world doesn't need more wizards. Koyomi explains that an eclipse happened 1 year ago, which was when a ceremony to summon more gates to create more phantoms occurred. Haruto's phantom was a dragon, but he was able to hold it back by a white wizard, who gave Haruto the task of taking care of Koyomi and fighting phantoms as a wizard. The show constantly refers to Haruto as Wizard, not Kamen Rider Wizard. Just Wizard, kind of like how Hibiki isn't referred to as a Kamen Rider in his own show. I do like those kinds of details, since it makes Wizard feel like its own world with its own lore, but I also enjoy when the characters learn about being Kamen Riders. Fourze was the one who called Wizard a Kamen Rider during the summer movie, and that was a cute scene. Alright, the villains. Phoenix and Medusa take orders from another phantom general named Wise Man, whose plan is to find more gates and make them fall into despair to create more phantoms. With enough phantoms, Wise Man can create another eclipse ceremony called the Sabbath to, make more phantoms. But more importantly, they just need a lot of mana. We see that Koyomi feeds off Haruto's mana or else she'll fall ill, and Haruto restores his mana by eating donuts. What's mana exactly? Think of a magic meter from any video game ever. Which is another thing I like in Wizard. It just adds a little bit more world building, and I think you guys know by now that I absolutely love world building. Well, that's that. Basically all the background and story for a majority of the show. I guess the next new thing I can talk about is that in episode 8, a white Garuda drops off a stone for Wajima to work on. Then in episode 9, Koyomi delivers the ring to Haruto, but she feels bad vibes from it. Haruto gets into a fight with Phoenix and has no choice but to use the ring. It takes Haruto to his own underworld, giving him a new resolve to fight alongside the dragon phantom inside. And now Haruto becomes Wizard Flame Dragon. The next few episodes have Haruto receive similar dragon rings of different elements. I know that sounds anticlimactic, but the episodes don't really give much build-up either. Instead, let's talk about something fun. Out of all the seasons from Double to Wizard, it was Wizard that had the highest sales numbers when it came to the toys. And yeah, I can see why. The gimmicks for previous seasons were either stylish or functional, like medals just being coins so they're more for style, while Gaia memories and switches were more functional with neat sounds and playability. Wizard rings, at least to me, have a good mixture of both, but definitely leans more towards style. And what amazing style they have. Less is more and revel in simplicity, I always say. And that was also a style choice from the designers wanting a simple driver compared to the complexity of previous seasons. The O's driver is pretty simple in design, but you can see the detail in the notches, while the Wizard driver is probably one of the simplest belts in Heisei Phase 2. It's a circle with a hand in the middle and 2 sliding notches at the side to make the reading system easier. I personally really like this belt. It's not one of my favorites, but it's getting up there for me. The design process for the Wizard driver is pretty interesting too, with one designer saying that his technology was so new that they wouldn't have been able to make anything like this during O's development. What I love even more are the Wizard rings. These actually had some hesitation at first since rings are typically seen as a girl's toy, but one Plex designer said there is no ring toy for boys yet. This will be a ring toy that's not going to be seen as strange. This would add to the producer wanting the driver to appear out of magic, rather than being held physically like past writers. In my humble opinion, Plex did an amazing job creating this sleek design to appeal to a broader audience. Sure, it's just a circle jewel with a picture, but that's a step up from core medals to me. And being able to actually wear them just adds like that much more of a playability factor. The simple design might seem like a no-brainer, but there was a lot put into the overall marketing of the gimmick. At one point, Plex wanted each jewel to correspond to the English alphabet, but that was seen as too close to Fourze switches using numbers. Then to separate the rings from other girls' toys even further, elements like fire and water would be the focus, rather than jewels like ruby and sapphire, with one exception that we'll get to later. Speaking of flame and water, let's actually talk about the Wizard himself. Kamen Rider Wizard is one of my favorite Toku suits ever. And that's not just flame style, cause Hurricane, Water, and Land each look gorgeous. Wizard overall is gorgeous. The translucent helmet styled after the rings, the different shape motifs on the coat. Oh, and yes, that robe is one of the coolest design choices in Kamen Rider. Not just cause it looks great, but since the choreography had more body movement, the designers wanted a coat to make the action more fluid. There was an early idea for Kamen Rider Double to have a trench coat that got scrapped, but now seeing longer clothing in action for a main rider is just, oh man. Not to mention the dragon styles, which up my compliments by at least 100 points. The more solid colored coats and the more detailed helmets are just perfection. If you couldn't tell by now, this is where I'm gonna gush for a while, so strap in because I've been wanting to tell you all how much I love Wizard's visuals. In fact, I'll just say right now that Wizard has some of the best visuals in the franchise to me, especially the action. You probably know that extreme martial arts was the focus for the choreography in order to avoid kids wanting to use the rings for punches, cause you know, kids copy what they see on TV. There was also an in-universe explanation that Haruto didn't want to break the rings, so he fought more with kicks. Each magic style had different kinds of movement focuses, like Hurricane being more vertical and Land using a lot of throws. I never would have thought that there was that much put into something like a coats action. All the more reason to respect the people behind these shows. Like I said, the action is fantastic, some of the best in the entire franchise, and I'm gonna hammer in how gorgeous that choreography is. One of my favorite fights is the beginning of episode 8. Look at those flips, the smooth transitions, and the hard cut side by side. It's so cool. Plus the action is great throughout the entire show and even the side content. There have been different directors for Wizard, but the choreography is still amazing no matter who's directing. I'm not sure what it could be. Maybe the coat really adds to the fluidity. Maybe the CG magic and kicks are something I'm not used to, but I'll just never shut up with how good the fight scenes are. Let's also not forget the magic word. Freeze! As much as I love the toys, I'm actually a bit conflicted when it comes to the sounds. I will save my negative thoughts for that later, but for now, they're fun at least. Believe it or not, the standby sound was inspired by Scatman John, and even implementing this had some hesitation, but the producer felt like it added to the overall style. So you know how the standby jingle says, Shabadoobie touch the henshin? The Dragon style standby says, Urupat magic touch go. It doesn't mean anything, it's just magic words like Alakazam or... Hey, wanna know who voices the driver? Me too, but it's a corporate secret. Oh yeah, and Wizard Rider Machine is the machine winger from a Honda CRF 250L. That's all I got. I should probably look more into vehicles next time. I'm at a loss of what to say already. So, things happen in Wizard. Haruto fights some phantoms. That's basically it. Hey, I like episodic shows, okay? I just don't like talking about them. I guess I could bring up a couple of arcs. I like episode 6, where a woman is having men fall for her, but it turns out she's conning them, and even Haruto almost gets swindled. Then it's revealed that she's trying to make money by buying a house that her dad lost after falling for a scam. That's actually kinda interesting. Oh look, a fart joke. Well, better than when Power Rangers makes the same jokes. Then there are a couple episodes where Shunpei's friend tries to sell sweets. It wasn't an interesting episode, but I like sweets, so there I brought up a couple of arcs. On to something more fun again. After episode 12, we get the crossover, Kamen Rider Cross Kamen Rider Wizard and Fourze, Movie War Ultimatum. What an amazing title for such an okay movie. Fourze's portion was just a single line in my Fourze video, mostly because I wanted to keep that season's endgame as a surprise. Although I really should talk about it more, but this is a Wizard video, so... Gentaro, who became a teacher 5 years after Fourze, gets the gang back together to fight some bad guys. The Fourze driver gets destroyed during all that, so Gentaro can be friends with the student. Then Gentaro, Ryusei, and Nadeshiko enter a portal. Oh hey, it's a Nazaman. Why does he look like that? A few other Ishinomori heroes show up in this movie because... I don't know. What I find weird is that the older Nazaman suit was used for the Oz movie, but now it's updated like the Akamizers. Not a fan of the updated designs though. Anyway, the Akamizers kidnap 4 kids and a gate to do evil stuff that also has to do with time traveling 5 years into the future. In the present, Haruto and friends prepare to face the Akamizers. So cool. Plus the others get into the action too. Haruto enters the gate's world, where it's Poetrain's birthday. She's another Ishinomori hero, and at the time of this video, her series is available through Toei Tokusatsu World. It's alright. With the help of 4 other kids, Haruto tells Poetrain to wake up and live in reality, because then they can see each other in the real world. Then Gentaro uses the wizard ring to enter Poetrain's underworld and help Haruto, where we watch the titular team-up. Civilian fights are always cool. On the outside, Koyomi is surrounded by ghouls, so a legendary rider makes a cameo to reach out and help. The 4 kids from earlier are given legendary rider rings to summon them. I know this sounds weird, but I kind of like when Legend Rider faces are hidden, kind of like in Memory of Heroes. I don't know why. I just think it's a nice compromise to only barely have the riders there in person if they're not actually available. Anyway, team transformation time. Akiko is not gonna like what Axel did there. Koichi Sakamoto directed this movie, and you can definitely see the great action that he's known for. Fusion states again? Neat. Wait, did Nadeshiko just become skis? The day is saved, and Haruto gives the current Gentaro a Fourze driver, and a wizard ring. Poetrain turns out to be the donut shop manager that I'm surprised I didn't bring up till now, and we get an after-credit scene of a golden Kamen Rider. Well, at least the movie theme is good. Like I said, this was okay. I enjoyed seeing the Kamen Rider Club again, and the action was cool. That's all about I can say. Alright, I'll try to extend my thoughts starting with Fourze's portion. Yeah, I like a where are they now approach to Fourze's high school setting, but honestly, It felt a little unnecessary, and the 5-year jump doesn't sit right with me. That aside, having Gentaro as a teacher makes up for any negativity I have for this part, because that's just too perfect. He even gets along with his old instructors too. I guess the main antagonists of this part were a group of kids forming a junior kaiju club for evil deeds, which is where the student who becomes a Nazuman comes from. That's just weird. Then the big evil plan was to make more Tsunagi men cause they're neo-humans and it's the next obvious step in evolution, but no thanks. As for the Fourze driver being destroyed for friendship, I don't mind. To an extent. This portion takes place before Gentaro's next cameo in a future season, but after that, good luck explaining how Fourze appears anymore. Wizard's portion was kind of a slog to get through since most of it is trying to convince Poetrain to face reality, while the rest is shenanigans with Shunpei and Rinko. It was kind of funny seeing the entire city live in this endless loop of preparing for Poetrain's birthday, then seeing her fight as this big spectacle. And I also enjoy the message that it's okay to indulge a bit, but to remember that there's still a real world to face. Despite already feeling like an extended episode, I actually wouldn't have minded if Wizard's portion was an hour-long standalone movie, especially if some cameos were still involved like the Alchemizers and staying with Poetrain. Then the final crossover battle was, just like the rest of the movie, okay. There isn't nothing too bad to point out, but there's also nothing that absolutely blew my mind either. In a way, that should be acceptable, because not every movie is going to be a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. If you want more Fourze, a special episode of Wizard, and some neat action with it too, then this movie will do it for you. Our next big moment occurs when Phoenix, Medusa, and Wise Man see a young man fall over, sensing something from him. It turns out that the man was just hungry. Good thing he has his trusty bottle of mayonnaise for just such an occasion. After Haruto fights some nearby ghouls, Rinko and Shunpei take the man to the donut shop, where he proceeds to put mayo on it. The man gets his fortune told, but it was a The man gets his fortune told, but it was a trap set by a phantom that poisoned Haruto. Luckily, our strange mayonnaise-loving man is also a Kamen Rider. He introduces himself as Nito Kosuke, a wizard. Much like Haruto, Nito isn't referred to as a Kamen Rider, but rather as an ancient wizard. I'm sure his rider name was said at least once, but he's called Kamen Rider Beast. Oh, by the way, Nito's one of those characters where I call him Nito, but a lot of people refer to him as Kosuke. I'm just used to saying Nito, that's basically it. Nito is an archaeologist, often camping out wherever he's allowed, as well as places he's not wanted. While Haruto says... Nito says, a long time ago, Nito was out doing archaeology research when he came across some ruins. Inside was the beast driver that held Chimera, that constantly needs to eat mana or else Nito will die. So whenever Nito fights, you can see ghouls and phantoms getting their mana absorbed into the beast driver. Neat! Oh. This shouldn't be surprising, but we've already reached another movie. Yeah, that fast. Alright, anything to get this done faster. No. Anything but that. No. Magical portals open up throughout Tokyo, so Geki, also known as Space Sheriff Gavan, Type G, is putting Haruto under arrest. But then Haruto protects Kayomi, and Geki is like, oh, guess you're a good guy then. Bye! Now we have Yoko of Tokime Sentai Go Busters, who's upset since her team couldn't make it to this camping trip. Some meteors start falling, and Yoko finds one nearby. She fixes it up back at base, where we learn this marketable yellow Bakugan is named Psychoron. Oh look, it's the previous Gavan, who wants Geki to eliminate Wizard and Beast despite knowing they're good guys. Okay, Boomer. Speaking of boomers, Shocker is back because... magic! Now there's Space Shocker. Haruto meets Yuden Sentai Kyoryuger and Ikari Guy of Kaigo Sentai Go Kaiger, who properly introduces Haruto to Geki and Space Sheriff Sherivan. A magical portal leads them to an interdimensional space phantasm castle that has Shadow Moon and... the Kyodines? Okay, weird. Sherivan tells Geki that they only have 1 hour to defeat the castle thing or else Gavan destroys the Earth. Huh? So we have in-suit cameos of several riders and rangers, which leads us to our superhero kerfuffle. Psychoron turns out to be a bad guy. Until he's not. The Kyoryugers and Haruto do a really cool finishing kick and the day is saved with the Go Busters in front of a weird looking green screen and a Kid Kaider movie teaser. Yeah, this is the worst one. Where the original had too little in a big scope, Taisen Z has too much in an even bigger scope. You know how the original focused on a small group going through a journey? This movie tries to do that too with Haruto, then he disappears for half the movie, so it focuses on Yoko. No wait, I mean Geki. Sorry, I meant Guy. Wait, now it's a buddy cop adventure with Geki and Guy. Now Guy's gone, Yoko's back. It just starts to become a mess, and that's the best way I can describe Taisen Z. It's just a huge mess trying to cram as much as they can and hoping it all makes sense by the end. Adding in the space sheriffs to Superhero Taisen sounds like a good next step, but the only one with any sizable screen time is Geki. Heck, Scheider only has 2 lines that appears at the end. Technically the space sheriffs are in the movie, right? But it's not just them, despite having space sheriffs in the title. I guess it's a Metal Heroes tribute in general, cause the Kyodines appear alongside a special Gokai change. Wait, how did Geki get those key? Probably doesn't matter. Cause now it's in a Shinomori Heroes tribute with Inazuman showing up for a good minute. He even calls Gentro as his teacher despite that not happening yet. But it's the modern design Inazuman. Never mind. Good thing we have the Kyoryugers out of suit for one small scene. The Space Hero tribute was kinda cool, even though there aren't any voices from the original actors, let alone archived lines, so Hiromu's actor was left to voice Decade. Hey, there's Kotoha from the Shinkenkers inside Gavan's ship, since she and Shelly share the same actress. That's cute. Even the final battle was kinda lame. Having Ichigo, Akaranger, and the other assortment of heroes out of nowhere just adds to the feeling that they weren't necessary. Yep, those are explosions, alright. Ooh, a Super Sentai ring. Awesome. At least the kick is cool. I can't even get excited seeing all this like I did with the first movie. There are a couple of funny moments. A long time ago, I would have said that Superhero Taisen wasn't outright bad or anything, just boring. Now I'm gonna go with both. Too much for its own good, leading to a boring slog. Sorry Taisen GP and Show Taisen. At least you two are entertaining. But if there's anything I can gush about, it's Superhero Otsu. The original movie had webisodes showcasing funny moments between Fourze and other heroes. Superhero Otsu is that, but 100 times better. This is one of the best and funniest side content I've seen. It's Shunpei and Rinko solving problems from other heroes, whether it's trying to figure out why a futon has been outside, or Kabuto trying to find the perfect recipe at a broken down cart. It's just really funny. On one of their cases, they imagine Stronger and Electrowave Human tackle being married, so Stronger goes into a drunken stupor after finding out she was seeing an alien Balton from Ultraman, and they poke fun at how it's not even a Toei creation. This joke just goes on and on and on, then it turns out that Gavan's explanation was true? What about the case where they wonder if it's okay to acknowledge that someone's fly is down? Some of this is lowbrow humor, no fart jokes included, but it's still really funny. Of course, it's all subjective, but Amazon went shopping on Amazon.com. I think Rinko and Shunpei are a good matchup when it comes to being a comedy duo, so seeing them together here is amazing. Amazon-san,
a body has been discovered!
Although we also have the miniseries in this miniseries, why did Ami bed in? What? Where the Kyoryugers try to find out why certain heroes were in the same bed as Ami, and one of them is sad to see it? What? Beast is here too? And Haruto? Their Kyoryuger cast is great. I love seeing them in a comedy web series. For some reason, I think it's super funny that the guys enter Ami's room by doing their transformation dance. This uses a good range of heroes, new and old, and the jokes just keep coming, not holding anything back. I didn't think I'd talk about Superhero Otsu this much, but I guess that just shows how much I love it. If only Taisen Z had the same amount of heart put into it. If any of this has interested you, then I highly suggest watching the first couple of episodes. There are 10 in total, so I try to not give too much away, let alone the best jokes. Alright, so, what's next with Wizard?
Excite! Freeze!
I'm oddly okay with this. Rinko has been investigating any background on Phoenix, which leads her to a flower shop owner, saying that Fujika Yugo, Phoenix's human name, used to work there and was completely harmless. Then he just disappeared a year ago when the eclipse happened. Meanwhile, Haruto is nearly defeated by a phantom until the White Wizard rescues him. Haruto wakes up in a pocket dimension where the White Wizard tells him to use every last drop of the dragon's power. Using that power lets Haruto use the Drago timer, which lets him summon all of his dragon styles. Once again, the action is really good. However, Phoenix has been talking with Rinko. She thinks she can reach his heart, but he actually realizes that he doesn't need the gates or Sabbath anymore and should just go on a rampage for himself. Medusa bumps into this strange man who warns her about Phoenix. That same man later gives Shunpei a gift, Rinko's bloodied badge. The stranger tells Haruto about where Phoenix is keeping Rinko and introduces himself as Sora. Much like a mythological phoenix, this phantom phoenix becomes stronger the more he's defeated. With the power of the Drago timer, Haruto becomes all dragon. What a weird suit. Rider kicking Phoenix into the sun, where he'll regenerate forever without a way to escape. Okay, all of that was pretty cool. Now that Phoenix is out of the picture, Sora decides to join Medusa, but she calls him Gremlin. A couple episodes later, Haruto and Nito have a misunderstanding with a girl who looks just like Medusa. They're not entirely wrong, because this girl is Mayu, Medusa's twin. Mayu was studying abroad, but Medusa, whose human name was Misa, gave her a family charm. Then when the eclipse happened, Medusa killed their parents, causing Mayu to fall into despair. However, Mayu was able to hold back the phantom, just like Haruto did. The White Wizard magically appears to offer Mayu a chance to train as a wizard. In the next episode, we get a brand new toy! A ring box you can put in your kinda old merchandise. More importantly, Nito gets a new power-up with Beast Hyper. Ew. That sounds super anticlimactic, and it is, so here's Magical Girl Beast. In the same episode as Beast Hyper's debut, we see Gremlin talk to a man in chains, prepared to set him free. This is the phantom named Legion, who doesn't care about causing despair, only attacking people. Wise Man grabs Gremlin to shake him down for releasing Legion, but then Gremlin brings up something called the Philosopher's Stone. Meanwhile, Haruto fights Legion, leading Legion into Haruto's underworld, where the dragon inside explodes, meaning Haruto's magic is gone. And yet, he continues to fight as a civilian. Koyomi continues to lose energy, and since Haruto can't give her any mana, she leaves without a word to not cause Haruto any more grief. She goes to a beach where Haruto first promised to be her final hope. He holds on to her, but she falls, now being completely out of mana. Haruto sheds a tear, creating a new ring. Legion is defeated and Koyomi feels well again. Before I go over the last 10 episodes, yeah, isn't it crazy that it's almost over? Let's rewind to the suits I haven't gone over yet. First off, the Ancient Wizard Kamen Rider Beast. I didn't catch this at a first glance, but I later found out that the Beast driver is based on a wrestling championship belt, specifically when it's open. What a random motif. And I gotta say, I'm not the biggest fan of the belt's design. The face on the front looks cheesy to me. The bad kind of cheese. I think it's because Beast's suit is overall pretty simple, and then the belt's face is overly detailed. What I do love are the belt jingles. Since Wizard has a cloak, Beast was given mantles to have fluid movement with, and I think it works a lot better than I ever thought it would. Asymmetrical designs are usually what I lean towards, and having a mantle just looks great in general. The Henshin jingle saying L-I-O-N, lion, was originally going to have H-E-N-S-H-I-N, Henshin, but that would have been too long, or at least not sound right. Still, I like the jingles a lot. The repetition of the names are super catchy. As for Beast himself, it's okay. The helmet is the only off-putting thing to me. Maybe it's too big, too wide, something like that. I do like the rest of the suit though. Can't go wrong with black and gold. Now on to Beast Hyper. Again? Come on, Meteor Storm was already bad enough. Now this. This time I know that this shade of blue was chosen since it wasn't already a mantle color. But, ew. Hopefully the next secondary power-up doesn't look as bad as these two. Thankfully, the next suit I'm going to talk about more than makes up for Beast Hyper. Wizard Infinity is a gorgeous suit. I have a one-track mind. If something is shiny, then it automatically gets a pass from me. Maybe Wizard Infinity is too gaudy for some, but I actually really love it. I would have preferred at least one more accent color, though I just love the glitter, the translucent parts, everything. Not to mention I think the jingle sounds pretty cool too, combining the elements of other styles to be one longer jingle. Remember early on I said that the designers wanted to avoid jewel motifs? Well, the one exception was Infinity, where everyone from designer to producer just knew that the final form would have a diamond, specifically a Tiffany-style diamond. Real quick, Haruto's base weapon is a gun, that's also a sword. Production staff only wanted one or the other, but Toei wanted both, so we got this cool looking combination that he actually uses quite a bit outside of transformations. It's a bit too big in gun form and the hand is just kinda weird, but I still like it. Unfortunately, Infinity's axe caliber is the last final form weapon we'll have for a while, since they don't normally sell too well and later final form weapons tend to just use a previous weapon. It's a shame cause the axe caliber is probably my favorite of any arsenal. A lot of people love guns that are swords, but I love axes that are swords even more. I guess I should also bring up the phantom designs while I'm at it. First off, the term phantom and wizard doesn't come from ghostly apparitions, but rather from the phrase phantom pain. I was a little mind blown when I first read that cause it started to make sense within the show. Phantoms are trying to cause despair by hurting what gives people hope, but eventually gets felt by an emotional or even a physical pain. That also makes for a cool Metal Gear Solid title. What else blew my mind was that despite some phantom names coming from Greek mythology, their designs weren't. Aside from like Medusa and Phoenix. I can still see a bit of mythological designs in the other phantoms, and I do like most of the designs in general. They look like nightmares and kind of creep me out. Plus the ghouls are based on mud dolls while their orange parts are heat, which creeps me out even more. What comes next are the last 10 episodes. Much like Fourze, a majority of any continuous story comes from its final stretch. Aside from Gremlin, the formula was a civilian of the week with Haruto fighting phantoms. I skipped talking about Fourze's last few episodes since it's an experience I'd rather you watch, emotion and all. Though I did promise that would be the only time I would skip out at the end, and honestly I probably would have skipped out on Wizards too. As much as I don't want to talk about Wizards ending, I think it's more warranted here. It also seems like I skipped out on a lot of the episodes, but I'm saving those for later. Some fan favorites like the Christmas and soccer episodes, yeah, I'll get to those. For now, the final stretch of story starts with a stranger going into Wajima's shop, wanting him to make a new ring. Wajima refuses since the last ring he made brought danger, and is only willing to make rings for Haruto. The stranger introduces himself as Fuuki, and promises that this stone will save countless others. Wajima reluctantly agrees to help, creating a purple ring with a crescent moon on it. After fighting a phantom, Haruto tries to use the ring, but there's an error. Fuuki stands nearby, saying that he is the only one who can use it, because Henshin. Fuuki the White Wizard warns Haruto that a moment of reckoning is coming, and Haruto is truly one of the last hopes. Wajima says that 1 year ago, he made rings for Fuuki in exchange for money, those rings being of different elements. One ring was for Haruto to become a wizard, so where are the others? During a fight with Medusa, a familiar face steps in. Mayu is back as Kamen Rider Mage. I'll just say now that she's here to find other people that have the potential to become wizards like her. In universe, they're still referred to as wizards, but her rider name is Mage. Shout out to Mage. Mayu is able to recruit 2 others, a young boy named Yuzuru and soon-to-be father, Yamamoto. Oh look, it's the same actor for Todoroki from Hibiki. Wish I could be talking about that again instead of this. Our next important arc has to do with a civilian of the week, an author who's been searching for a girl that re-sparked his love for writing. Haruto eventually brings him to the shop to hide him from the phantoms, where the author begins to recognize Koyomi. She doesn't remember him, but she's willing to take a chance and learn about her past. A phantom attacks them while they're out, and Haruto enters the author's underworld. He looks through his memories and hears Koyomi's dad call back for her. Her dad being Fuuki, the White Wizard. Movie time! Wizard in Magic Land, where Wizard ends up in a magical land. He and Koyomi are chasing after a magic user called Sorcerer. Then they're transported to this other world, where magic is the norm and mana is used as currency, and pretty much anyone can transform into mages. The rest of the adventure is Haruto finding out about something strange going on with the higher-ups who rule this land, and trying to escape with Koyomi. I would give more of a recap, but much like the Fourze and Wizard crossover, this movie's okay. I would say it feels like an extended episode, but I think it does just a little bit more. You know, a bit more action, a bit more focus on an ongoing story, a bit more style. Nito is the mayonnaise king. You can't exactly go wrong with that. A long time ago, I was thinking that I would spend a lot of time talking about this movie since I did like it a lot, and I still do like it a lot, but I can't really say much aside from it's okay. If you want to see what a magical world would be like in the context of Wizard, then hey, here you go. Weirdly enough, this had net movies too. Wizard in Magica Land. Oh, I get it, cause Magica, Magi, what's that? Magi means what? What's that? Puns. Where Haruto becomes a cop in Magic Land alongside other writers. They interrogate a Shaka Grunt in one episode. That's kinda cruelly funny. Gremlin and Medusa check out Kamen Rider Fourze. Okay, these are kinda lame. It's like they're trying to be as funny as superhero Otsu with the Wizard cast, but I don't think this works. I don't know, I think the jokes can be funny, but the execution sounds like everyone is bored. Why did this have 25 episodes? I'll also bring up the Hyper Battle video, where Nito and Haruto dance with some ghouls to get super cool new forms. That's about it, back to the show. Koyomi is getting weaker and weaker. A crack starts to show on her hand and mana isn't helping her anymore, so Fuuki takes her to his pocket dimension. All that's left is to recruit Yamamoto and defeat Medusa. Mayu is about to finish her off, until Wise Man stabs through Medusa instead. Wise Man reveals himself to be Fuuki. Now I can finally say his proper name. Kamen Rider Wise Man. That name was officially revealed after the show ended, which makes sense, though I worry about people getting to Wizard for the first time and finding out Wise Man's name early on. Oh, weirdly enough, Wise Man, at least White Wizard Wise Man, was planned to only be shown in the beginning of the show and nothing else, but I believe it was one of the producers or someone at Toei or Bandai wanted to have more toys out for Wizard, which is where the White Wizard driver came from. And the rings, and his sword thing, flute sword thing, and well, yeah, you can get it from there. We learned that Fuuki was a physicist with a late wife, and a young daughter with an incurable disease, that daughter being Koyomi. Fuuki later created an artificial phantom named Carbuncle so he can become a wizard. The reason why Koyomi constantly needs mana is because she's a puppet that holds the Philosopher's Stone, and Fuuki chose Haruto to become his scapegoat and protect Koyomi until the time was right. Fuuki, the White Wizard, formerly Wise Man the Phantom, did everything for Koyomi. He didn't care about the phantoms. He wanted to have 4 wizards as a sacrifice for the Sabbath. The previous eclipse was an attempt to revive Koyomi, but only worked partially. That's when Fuuki noticed Haruto's potential to become a wizard and gain more mana. The 3 Kamen Rider mages and Haruto are planted around Tokyo to prepare for the Sabbath. Haruto is willing to go with this to help Koyomi, but then Fuuki shows that the Sabbath may kill off hundreds of innocents if they can't handle the magic. The purple crescent moon ring is activated, and the Sabbath begins. Nito is the only one left to stop Fuuki, so one cool fight scene later, and Nito lets Chimera loose to eat as much as he wants. The wizards are set free, and Haruto confronts Fuuki. Their fight is led to a beach. Koyomi is ready to give her life, to not cause any more suffering. Fuuki goes towards Koyomi, but is killed by Gremlin. Then Gremlin cuts through Koyomi, taking the Philosopher's Stone. All that's left behind is Koyomi's ring. Episode 51, The Final Hope. Gremlin becomes more powerful using the Philosopher's Stone and unleashes Tokyo ghouls. See what it did there? The other mages stand up to help, while Haruto prepares for the final battle. Gremlin hated that they were all forced to enter this magical side of the world just to save Koyomi, a stranger to them, so he wants to become human again and eradicate all phantoms. Haruto sympathizes, but is still going to be the final hope. One moment ruining jingle, and cool rider kick later, Haruto grabs the Philosopher's Stone, turning it into a pink ring, and Gremlin fades away. Now that the day is saved, Nito is going to search for Chimera. Rinko is continuing her work with Section 0 in search of any leftover phantoms, and Shunpei wants to work for Wajima to become a ring maker. Haruto rides off to find a place for Koyomi to finally rest in peace. I'm always happy continuing with the History of Kamen Rider series because it lets me discover some shows I otherwise would have skipped, as well as rewatch shows and have my opinions change over time. The best and worst part being that I have a decent sized viewer base that's excited for the next videos, so I'm honestly really humbled and grateful for that. The worst part is that I've seen people take these videos as a substitute and base off opinions from that. It does add a bit of pressure for when I talk about seasons that have mixed opinions on, which is why I started saying your opinion matters more than mine. If my constant audible sighs and nonchalant attitude didn't give it away, yeah, I'm not a fan of Wizard. I had some community comments saying that maybe I'm just burnt out, but I was watching a couple other shows while I was working on this video, and I still loved those. Other comments were also telling me, oh, just wait for Gremlin, just wait for the ending, the final battle is some of the best in Kamen Rider, and honestly, they didn't do it for me. This is my second time watching, and I didn't enjoy the show while it was airing either. In fact, I think I enjoy Wizard even less now. I will say, it's not the absolute worst season ever. It's just boring. There, I said it. I think Kamen Rider Wizard is really boring. To me. Emphasis on, it's boring to me. So let me explain. While I think Fourze is the most basic season, the things it does differently stands out that bit more, especially since it's generally really fun with a lot of friendship and feel-good moments. Wizard is a basic season to its core, but now with magic. I've been trying to avoid this word for years, but here I am saying it to make a point. Is Wizard objectively bad? With so much good in a 53 episode show, would you really say the entire thing, dozens and dozens of hours of content including movies and side specials, is it outright bad? No, of course not. That would be a dumb thing to say. All toku is good, even Wizard. I just think it's less good because of how mundane it gets for me. Let's go through a few episode and arcs. That way I can show you guys what I mean by boring, and also give credit where it's due. Trust me, I do have a lot of good to say about Wizard. How about that Christmas episode? Haruto saves a gate that doesn't believe in magic, so Haruto and friends follow him around, seeing him do odd jobs basically all day. One of his last stops was at a home with a lot of kids. Haruto is told that when the man was young, he was given a toy watch, which brought him hope. So the man buys gifts for the kids and gives them hope. A phantom is found in the gate's underworld. Then Santa appears. The day is saved and the kids were brought hope with lots of presents. This is one of my favorite episodes, along with the one I brought up earlier about the con woman. The Christmas episode is pretty basic too. Oh, a guy doesn't believe in the spirit of Christmas, bah humbug, but oh man, it turns out he's actually super nice and wants to save the orphanage. Yeah, I've seen it before. Although Wizard adds that literal magic touch. It's that magician in the city feel during Christmas that makes me happy. Phoenix and Medusa grumble about the holidays. The action is still really good, and Haruto doing a backflip to transform is really cool. To me, Wizard is at its best when it tells a story in a single episode, rather than stretching it out in a 2-episode structure. When I say stretching out, I mean most of these episodes really feel stretched out. One of the directors said that some standalone episodes were sprinkled in the season to quote-unquote motivate the audience to watch the second episode, and so you don't have to worry about completing the 2 episodes. Oh boy, I know, I sure didn't want to complete 2 episodes. I did ask around Twitter for some of your favorite moments and episodes in Kamen Rider Wizard. I found the usual suspects, like Infinity, Phoenix being kicked into the sun, and I'm not sure how to put this, but I was kind of expecting a bit more. Because when people say they really like Wizard or they really like moments in Wizard, I've seen those people really like Wizard, maybe even being their #1 favorite season. But then when I ask for favorite moments, yeah, the usual stuff is fine, it's cool, but Again, I was expecting something that wasn't the Infinity or the suits or... I just hope you get what I mean. Just something more. You'd think I wouldn't mind how these Wizard episodes are formulated and structured, since a lot of the staff came from Super Sentai's side, and there are a couple of writers that I personally really like. Tsuyoshi Kida, Nobuto Aikawa, who wrote for Hibiki, Junko Komura, known for writing a heck of a lot of Sentai shows. There are some good names attached, but I'll just move on. Beast Hyper's debut might be one of the most boring arcs in Wizard for me. An archaeologist finds a hyper ring, and Nito tries to get it from him, but the archaeologist doesn't want to give it up, so he pretends that it was stolen, though he was just hiding it the whole time? Huh? Okay? Ugh, that didn't need to be a two-parter at all. Speaking of Beast, the Magical Girl Beast episode is really good too. If only it was a single episode. Nito's grandma comes to Tokyo, and Nito tries to hide that he's a magic user since his grandma has always been very strict. He has no choice but to transform, which is where the Magical Girl Beast scene comes from. Then his grandma finds out and decides to give up her life to feed Chimera and save Nito. It's an interesting episode, stretched out to 2 episodes. At least the ending to the second part was pretty intense. Nito's grandma is going to be exchanged as a hostage. The camera looms on Nito and the Phantom. They're out in the open. Nito is willing to give up his driver. This is great.
Driver on!
Why do they need to have the driver on sound? That just ruined the moment. The absolute worst time this happens is during the finale with Haruto versus Gremlin. So much buildup, so much intensity. Koyomi was just lost. Haruto and Gremlin have a standoff at a broken down warehouse. This is it, the final battle, and... This is why I was so mixed on the sounds. Normally they're fun and have good energy, but during tense times like these, I just don't think they work. If anything, it takes away from any cool moment. I've seen comments saying that the jingle does add to the epicness, and fine, I can see it, but to me, ugh. The weird thing is that I feel this way just with Wizard. O's had a jingle play during heavy moments too, especially the end, and I still really love those. But Wizard... Okay, it's not like I'm saying, grr, grown man hate jingle in kids show. No, nothing like that, cause I do like the jingles. Outside of scenes like this. On the other hand, if there's one sound design that I absolutely love, it's the music. See, back to positivity. Normally I would go track by track with the vocal themes, although I have the same opinion on most of them. Go Get 'em. Blessed Wind. And Last Engage. They're all really good. This is the kind of music I'd be into when I was in high school, and I can appreciate them even more now since there's a lot of Kamen Rider Girls tracks for this season. Each of them are super catchy, and the choruses are some of the best. Last Engage is my favorite of the 3, but again, that's my favorite out of 3 really great songs. Not to mention the others that I didn't bring up, like Beast's theme. Let's cover some movie themes too. Starting with We Are Brothers, the theme for superhero Taisen Z. The fun part of Taisen music is that they bring in a lot of recognizable singers from both Sentai and Rider. This song is okay. I poke fun at it during my favorite themes video, saying that it's a bit forgettable, and aside from the catchy first line of the chorus, yeah, I actually kind of forgot about this song until I started writing this part of the script. Whoops. Hey, at least the Shocker Grunts are having fun. Next is Fourze the Rocks from Movie Wars Ultimatum. I really should have put this on my favorites themes list, cause once I heard it, I kept playing it on repeat. It's another one of those songs that I definitely would have listened to a lot when I was younger. The grungy sounds and vocals of Demon Kaka are super catchy, then it becomes this lighter toned chorus that I find myself hum every once in a while. Oh, the singer also voiced Alchemizer's leader in the movie, and that's pretty cool. Also highly recommend googling him, cause he's a pretty interesting guy. Now we have the finale of the finale from Wizard and Magic Land. You guys probably know by now that I love Rider Chips, so this was an immediate favorite for me, and it even got into my favorite themes video. The energy is great, and those vocals are always amazing. I don't normally bring up video game themes, but much like Fourze's, which I know was also in the show, this song is just too cool not to bring up. By the way, highly recommend playing Show Climax shows if you can. It's a really fun Kamen Rider fighting game. Wish we had that style of game again instead of Climax Scramble, but that's for another time. Oh, I'm not forgetting Missing Piece, Wizard Infinity's theme. I used to actually hate this song, specifically how ugly sounding the first verses were, but this is one of the songs that grew on me the most. It's weird considering the show usually cuts the chorus, but it still adds a lot of hype. Honestly, I used to not enjoy the Kamen Rider girls in general, but again, I grew to appreciate things as my opinions changed. Now for the one thing I've loved since day one of Wizard. Life is Showtime, Wizard's opening sung by Kiryu and Show of Golden Bomber. As I said, I've loved this song for the longest time, even being one of my favorite songs ever, outside of Toku. The energy is perfect, and the complexity of the instruments are something I know I could never match in a million years. I've probably talked about this song in other videos that those who know probably never want to hear me gush about Life is Showtime again, but it's just such a good song. At this point, you're probably wondering why I haven't talked about one certain thing in Wizard. Well, actually, two certain episodes. Number 52, The Kamen Rider Rings, and number 53, The Never-Ending Story. First off, this means that Wizard is one of the longest seasons of Kamen Rider. Yay. These were made so the next show could start airing in October instead of August. So what does Wizard do given 2 more episodes after its own story ended? It gives us one of the most fun crossovers in Kamen Rider. Haruto gets teleported inside a crystal ball thing and he goes on an adventure to protect these 2 kids from a cosplayer named Amadum. He wears costumes from different villains throughout the history of Kamen Rider, since this also kind of celebrates riders as the kids are able to use Legend Rider rings. Huh. That almost sounds exactly like Decade's actor. Either way, Haruto comes across his old friends who are acting a bit differently, and now we have fun seeing Haruto team up with so many riders, fighting villains from the past. Of course, the legend himself is here too. Originally, if a cameo was going to be included in these last 2 episodes, they were given the choice of either Fourze or Kuga, but we all know how hard it is to get them in the first place, so they went with the next best choice. Decade. But he's not the only cameo. There's this one cool scene too.
He's probably gonna tell us to save the world!
You need a haircut.
Well, that was rude.
Wait, that was my voice. Right, I guess this is the first time I'm acknowledging my other, abridged projects. Sorry, I'm not re-uploading them. Or rather, I can't because, copyright, but hey, there are a couple lines for you. Yay. Anyway, this 2-episode special was really fun, and a good way to end Wizard. I don't think it's a good epilogue, but rather a good story to end with. If you do want a nice epilogue, then I prefer Wizard's portion from the Gainax Wizard movie. I normally try not to bring up future appearances in current videos, but this is one I actually like. And I won't bring up in the Gaim video since that's a Gaim video. It has Haruto come back with his friends to find out the mysteries of the true Carbuncle Phantom and a returning Koyomi. The characters are still doing what they set out to do by the end of Wizard, and since not too much time has passed, they're in the state of, what are we gonna do now? The part where Haruto tries to get through Koyomi the White Wizard has to be one of my favorite moments in Kamen Rider, plus what follows immediately after is Haruto entering his own underworld by a weird ring that Shinpei made. Then we get this really cool fight scene of Haruto and the Phantom fighting through Haruto's memories. It uses specific moments from the show, and the way the memories are like these portals is just so good. Again, if you want a nice epilogue for Haruto and the cast, then this is it. And I honestly couldn't think of a better way to end the show. Okay, so my stance overall is that Wizard is okay, I guess. I just find it more boring than anything. Although if there's one constant good that I actually want to defend, it's Haruto. Even before my rewatch, I saw countless comments saying how boring Haruto is as a protagonist, and I can kinda see why. We start the show with a protagonist that already went through despair and is willing to be the last hope for those who fall towards despair too. There isn't much to develop from someone who's already went through his own arc off screen. However, I wouldn't say that Haruto is boring. He has a personality that I really like. He's the straight man to the many comedic relief moments, and he can be sarcastic. There was an episode where everyone had to dress formally. Then Haruto sees Shunpei wear his usual colorful getup, and Haruto says, "You really couldn't wear anything else?" Nito often says that he doesn't want a ring put on his finger by a man, or vice versa, and then Haruto gives his face like, "Come on, I'm trying to help you." Then there's this one scene where he tries to infiltrate a place by becoming small, and he has to jump some pipe, and he gives this sigh of like, the things I do. It's all very good. But there have been times where Haruto makes the wrong decision, or his hesitation starts to take a toll on him. One of my favorite moments is when Haruto has a choice to either stop a phantom from making someone fall into despair, or chase after the white wizard. Haruto decides to let the phantom go, so it was Shunpei to remind him that helping people is important. That hit a lot harder than it should. There's also that soccer episode where we learn that Haruto's dream had to do with soccer, until he accidentally hurt his teammate and then became a wizard shortly after. It was another good episode that showed Haruto isn't this piece of cardboard that so many people think he is. I might even say he's one of my favorite main writers. In fact, I will say he's my favorite character in the show. Unfortunately, by default, because I don't really enjoy the rest of the cast. I even find Nito kind of boring. Like I've been saying a lot, there isn't anything inherently wrong with Haruto's friends. I just don't see much to point out either. Rinko helps out with the police connection. She's very helpful. She's usually on the forefront of an investigation with Haruto. Nothing wrong with her. Shunpei is there, and I don't mind his little comedic moments. Nito acknowledges Mayo a few times. That's kind of funny, but other than that, I just don't have much to say about them. The same goes for the villains. I like Medusa's presence being there for most of the show, and Phoenix being the one quote-unquote killed off for a new general to join. It's a neat dynamic that I wish we got more of in Rider. Although, aside from Haruto, there is one other character that might even be in my top 10 favorite Rider villains. Gremlin. Hope you weren't expecting much else, sorry, cause that's all I'm gonna say. The twist that was revealed for him is one that I dare not spoil. It's that good. If you're really interested, then I'll just say to watch episode 35. You know, it kind of frustrates me with how much good there is in Wizard, but it being just basic enough that I don't find myself enjoying most of it. The designs are so cool. The action is some of the best. Haruto is great. The music is beyond phenomenal. Not just the vocal themes. Every piece of the OST is beautiful. There are great ideas here and there. But then I watched 2/3 of a show that I just don't care about. However, that's only from me, because I know so many people that love this show. Yes, there is a lot to enjoy, and I know that Wizard has a special place in the hearts of others. So, I want someone who loves Wizard to give their thoughts on it too. From here, I'll just say that while I don't enjoy Wizard as much as others, I hope you give it a try, and I wish it'll be special for you too. With all that being said, join me next time when we battle for the golden fruit with Kamen Rider Gaim. Oh man, can't wait for it.
Are you a magician?
No, I'm a wizard.
When it comes to a show like Kamen Rider Wizard, I feel that it is easiest to understand from three perspectives: the phantoms, the wizards, and the magic. The phantoms are the embodiment and physical manifestation of a gate's despair. Several phantoms were born during the tragic ritual known as a Sabbath, in which various gates were sacrificed as they simultaneously gave into unbelievable despair. To me, the phantoms are very different from any previous Kamen Rider villain faction. The reason being is that usually the villains in Rider shows have some sort of relationship with an aspect of humanity. Either they are humans who become monsters like in Fourze or in Double, or they are monsters who seek out aspects of humanity to be complete, like the greed in O's or the Roidmudes in Drive. Now what makes the phantoms different is that their own existence instantiates the complete destruction of whatever humanity their gate possessed in order to be born. Wizard plays on this theme a lot over the course of the show, making us question the intentions of the phantoms as they interact with gates, who had some sort of relationship to the human the phantoms killed in order to exist. Rinko investigates Yugo, for example, the gate that Phoenix once was, and discovers his kindness and his humanity, especially in the eyes of everyone he had a kind and gentle relationship with when he was a florist. But when Phoenix appears, Rinko tries to use Yugo's knowledge of his past to appeal to his emotions, and for an instant it seems to work. However, Phoenix only confirms to Rinko that Yugo died a long time ago, and that his very presence in this world proves that he has never had any sentimental connection with his gate at all. To the Phantoms, it seems that the gates are solely the prisons which inhibit a phantom from becoming manifest entities. So when Phantoms seek out others of their kind, they do so to liberate them from the confines of the human who is keeping them locked down with their feelings of hope. Medusa plays with these themes as well when she makes her twin sister Mayu believe that she is her true sister. The Phantoms utilize the empty husks of former humans and puppet them with their memories to viciously drive a wedge into the hearts of their loved ones to destroy them from the inside. As a result, the narrative compels us to believe that the essence of a phantom's existence is nothing more than a dark, malignant force that deserves only destruction. The exception to this parameter, however, is Gremlin. Now looking at the wizards. Given the existence of the phantoms and what they represent, in turn ends up giving the existence of the wizards much more agency to the story. Wizards are created when despairing gates manage to suppress the phantoms inside of them by clinging on to hope in the face of despair. What this does is it grants them the ability to harness the magical potential, or mana, from the phantom that resides within them. Now, as the show eventually comes to show us, this has both its positives and negatives. Haruto was a victim of the Night of the Sabbath and one of the few gates who managed to survive. As a result, Haruto was given the means to access his magic by the White Wizard, and forced into an uncertain destiny where he is fated to fight against the phantoms. Haruto never wanted magic in the first place. There are even times where Haruto himself is scared by the uncertainty and nature of his hidden abilities, and how they were manifested in the first place. Despite this, however, his magic is a part of him now, and he has to learn to contend with that fact. In doing so, he still resolves to keep fighting the phantoms, carrying with him the immense burden that he never wants to see the Sabbath occur ever again. That, without really knowing how it came to be in the first place. Not to mention that for the longest time, he felt that he was the only one who could support Koyomi, as she relies on his own mana in order to survive. Being a wizard in the context of Kamen Rider Wizard isn't positioned as beings with immense magical power who can use it however they want. The show takes a much more introspective and personal look at what having magic means, and more importantly, how it ties into the fabric of everything the show itself represents. The magic in Kamen Rider Wizard is arcane and ominous. It exists within the phantoms just as it does in the wizards, tying together the classic Kamen Rider trope that both the heroes and villains draw from the same exact source of power. But having magic isn't just about fighting phantoms and wizard. It also categorizes the relationships of all the characters involved. Nito Kosuke, also known as Beast, has a unique relationship with his own magic in that it is more of a curse than it is a blessing. Beast has to struggle to survive by mitigating the encroaching fear that his own phantom Chimera will consume him from within, with the fact that he has to continually sustain him with mana. The trajectory of Nito's character is an impressive one, as he goes from being a rival to wizard, to being considered worthless to the cause, to finding opportunity in the worst of circumstances and proving himself as a true underdog. Nito is initially convinced that Wizard's mission to destroy the phantoms is counterintuitive to his own cause, because he requires their own magic to sustain himself. However, over time, he realizes that the magical burden that he carries is the one that he shares with Haruto as well. Beast's magic is primordial, and therefore considered to be of no use to the White Wizard in his quest. He considers Beast to be expendable and not worth his time. However, in doing so, he ends up underestimating his true capabilities. Nito is the one who not only ends up uncovering and countering the White Wizard's ambitions at every corner, but he also helps the other wizards who come to terms with their own magic. It is in discarding Beast as obsolete that ensures that the White Wizard has a blind spot. The White Wizard was more concerned with Wizard's infinity style than he was ever with Beast's opportunistic advancement. In many ways, Beast's relationship to Chimera is more intimate than Haruto has with Dragon. Both of them revel in the unprecedented, and in the face of insurmountable odds, Beast not only ends up giving Chimera what he wants, knowing very well that it could kill him, but he also puts an end to a deadly ritual that would have killed so many others. In his strongest moments, Nito Kosuke's magic embodies the unprecedented, and manages to find opportunity where there seemingly is none. Both Haruto and Koyomi emerge from the Sabbath afraid of who they now were, what they had become. All they had was each other to rely on as they wandered aimlessly through the dynamics of their uncertain destinies. Haruto fears the phantom within him represents the despair he refuses to acknowledge, and Koyomi fears the absence of her life makes her nothing more than an empty husk of who she once was. In her own words, a monster. But Haruto and Koyomi's relationship may have stemmed from magic, but its existence does not represent it. Haruto and Koyomi's relationship is that of unconditional love. When Haruto loses his magic to Legion, he struggles to reconcile who he is without it, and just what he should do. He ends up finding solace in the fact that everyone who he has ever met along his journey treasures his kindness more than his magic. To Koyomi, Haruto was the only one who since the very beginning treated her just like any other human, giving her love, kindness, and warmth. Haruto is the one who makes Koyomi feel like she isn't a monster at all, the monster who she believes herself to be. And that kindness in itself is Haruto's own kind of magic. The same kind of magic that manifested into Wizard's final form, a true diamond in the rough. Fueki, the White Wizard and Wise Man, is desperate to find a way that magic can bring his daughter Koyomi back to life. Through it, he finds the Philosopher's Stone, which requires a tremendous amount of magic in order to transmute it into what he wants, Koyomi's soul. Fueki looks at Koyomi with contempt, knowing fully well that she is not his true daughter, just an empty husk of her being animated by magic. Fueki has this contempt towards Koyomi now because he knows of who she was before she died. But in contrast, Haruto didn't need any of that information to care for her. Fueki may have given Haruto magic to act as a temporary magical battery to sustain the stone supporting his daughter's life, but he never once considered that his love for his own daughter wasn't truly unconditional. Fueki and Koyomi's relationship itself was strained with years of just feeling completely useless. Fueki constantly blamed himself for being unable to save his only daughter, and going to such extremes to bring her back demonstrated the painful reality behind the Sabbath. To Haruto, however, Koyomi and the stone are one and the same, which is why in the end he carries the ring with him, and eventually returns her life to her memory. A memory where she may not have known who she was, but where she felt cared for, happy, and loved. Take all of your tears and turn them into a jewel, is the phrase that best encapsulates Kamen Rider Wizard. The show to me is an intimate journey of magic through an emotional exploration of what it means to hold on to hope in the face of despair. The characters in Wizard are fallible and imperfect, which is why they support each other in the face of overwhelming adversity. The sadness and despair they experience doesn't define them, and who they were or who they are isn't an impediment to unconditional acceptance and love. In emerging from a shared tragedy, these characters are able to accept and love each other at their most vulnerable, proving that the strength of their own emotions was in itself its own form of magic.